Welcome, everyone. We're all going to speak, so we're going to have to try and move through this presentation fairly quickly. We've got a much bigger disclaimer than Shez, so you need to start making notes on that. And this is my slide, really. It's a summary. Established business. You'll see that we're in the aerospace composites industry. We provide a service to very large manufacturers, and the outlook for growth in the industry is very significant because of net zero and the demand for lightweighting in the aerospace industry over the next 20 years. Huge growth opportunity, huge market. And last year, 22, we were 12 million turnover. We've already got 30 million on the books in terms of contracted per annum business. And we genuinely believe in 5 years we could get that to 100 million. And we'll go through some of that analysis and you'll see why that's not a hope in terms of the market is there. The market will be there. It's a matter, obviously, that we have to win that business. But that means just in the next year, you've got 2.5 times growth in revenue. But more importantly, because we've invested very lot in this business over the last few years, and it's in technology, it's services, it's engineering skills, hiring the right people, putting a facility down in the States as well. So huge investments gone in. We with the levels of revenue that we now have, the 30 million, that will transform the P&L account and take us, because the fixed costs are pretty much set, so that increase from 12 million up to 30 million will move us into a decent profit as well. And we expect to see that, well, it's actually scheduled to happen in this next year. Our year ends are October, so the second half of our financial year we expect to be very profitable based on the revenues we've already secured. And as I said, we're an aerospace composites business, and the board is stacked up with very significant experience in the industry. They also have a lot of governance skills, but each and every single person brings individual skills to the table and have worked in this industry for some time or know the industry very well. So I myself, sadly, was a chartered accountant, now found the light in doing this, but I've worked in the material science industry and the carbon fiber industry and the aerospace industry for about 20 odd years, 25 years. John is a founder of the business, so he can demonstrate to you himself his knowledge of this business in his presentation. Andrew, though, is the interim. He's been the CFO before, got several years' experience just in this business, highly experienced CFO at AIM level as well. Annette and David, both industry experts. Annette, supply chain experts in the industry, worked in many different companies, and David, PhD in aeronautics, expert in sustainability and composites in the aerospace industry. So I'm going to hand you over now to John, and he's going to do a bit of a deeper dive on what we actually do.
Thanks, Andy. Good evening, everyone. So first of all, I think it's worth understanding, what we mean by composites, what we do, and how we fit within the industry. So in our world, composite, as the name suggests, is a material made up of two materials that bring superior performance than the individual materials. So in our world, predominantly carbon fiber composites, woven fabrics mainly, and then the matrix is high performance epoxy resins. These materials are well established in the material supply chain in aerospace and are supplied by some very large organisations you'll see in a moment. What that means is, in contrast to aluminium, the raw material format is in rolls, the third picture you can see there, sticky rolls of uncured resin, and what that means is there's a lot of management there, batch traceability, shelf life, lots of controls needed for people who want to make parts out of composite, our customers. And what we do is we look after that supply chain for them, manage that complexity using our own technology to drive efficiency and higher rates of efficiency for our customers. And one of the reasons that's driving this, you can see in the diagram there, that's a 787, a Dreamliner, And as you can see, pretty much the whole primary structure now is composite in twin aisle aircraft, and single aisle aircraft are moving in the same direction. To demonstrate that, this chart really just shows you the sort of early generation of aircraft, and then the newer generation, you can see 50% by weight of composite in the primary structure, replacing aluminium, really driving efficiency both of fuel efficiency, range, and sustainability. And lots of public information out there. This is straight off the Airbus or the Boeing market forecasts, which you can download on their website. But as you can see, double growth here, both of the amount of composites that's going to be in the industry over the next 15 odd years, but also the fact that the fleet size is going to double as well. So really, composites become the primary material for civil aerospace structures. Defence has already made that transition already. And what's pushing that is really the move by 2050 to net zero as the aircraft manufacturers looked for alternative propulsion, be that sustainable aviation fuels, hydrogen power, or electrification. And so what do we do and where do we fit in the picture? So we mentioned the raw material comes on a roll, it's sticky, it needs managing very in a controlled way. And to actually make parts from that material, what our customers did prior to Velocity coming along is they need to produce their own kits, which are cut shapes from that roll, where the material is cut very accurately, very controlled way, full batch traceability, to create the raw material kit so that our customers can actually make the parts. You can see a very brief life cycle here of one particular engine component. What we do is we manage all that raw material supply chain on behalf of our customers. We cut the kits, we deliver it in and manage those kits in our customers' sites to allow them really to focus on making the parts and actually make more parts over the years to meet the demand. Why do we do it better than our customers? Well, what we've done is we've invested, and particularly over the last sort of 3 to 4 years through COVID, in a lot of digital technology to drive efficiency. So the sort of map you can see there, the top left is the entire process, all about managing our customer demand, managing the material suppliers. These materials are single source, they're on very long lead times. So for the benefit of our customers, we need to make sure that we have sufficient stocks, but not too much because it's lived. It will expire if it's over-ordered. So lots of controls built into our system to marry up customer demand, material supply chain, and deliver the kits into the customers. And how we drive increased efficiency and particularly the yield of the material from the rolls is our technology allows us to produce kits which are weeks, days, even months of demand in one particular production process to really drive the maximum yield per roll so that as much of that roll ends up flying as opposed to being wasted. That then creates a problem because you've then got kits spanning many, many rolls. So again, the technology is there to bring those kits back into the individual deliverables for the customers, but also track life, track batch traceability, and control that whole process digitally on behalf of our customers. Where we fit within the supply chain, you have a whole group there of very large global material suppliers who are sort of risk-sharing partners with the OEMs in terms of their materials. So lots of single source materials, lots of price controls, so we don't get squeezed. The price we buy the materials is exactly the same as what our customer pays. And then lots of end users, big, large aerospace manufacturers, tier one suppliers, and we really sit between those two large, well-established organizations to do all the processes you can see there on the right, from inventory management, as we said, the quality inspection, the traceability, the kit manufacturing, and actually then managing those kits on site in use at our customers to drive efficiency. As we said, lots of flow down price controls, so really the only lever our customers have to pull for efficiency is to make sure that they utilize it a lot more effectively and don't waste it and control it. I'll hand you over now to Andrew, who's going to take you through some of the financials and the sort of market aspects of the business.
Thanks, John. Andy stole the thunder a little while ago. Our revenue is expected to grow to over 30 million this current financial year, which we just started. We've got contracts in place which will drive between 36 million, 43 million dollars in dollars. The reason for the variability is the demand signals from our customers vary, and depending on their own production position, and so it can go up and down. So the precise nature of the sort of end of year number isn't exactly known. We have 3 facilities, 2 in this country and 1 in the US, and we've got sufficient capacity there to do about $85 million, 70 million pounds worth of throughput through them. So the majority of the investment's in place now to drive that. It's a question of getting the utilisation. We also have a significant pipeline of opportunities. Some of those are listed on here, both in Europe and in the US. Most of these tier ones are very large organisations, and some of the opportunities, which you can see there with the numbers, are very big. Clearly, a business of our size would need to take on that sort of opportunity on a phased basis, which would support the customer in that way. But the ultimate opportunity is once you get that contract, which, as we've seen, is very sticky to change. Then it gives us a great amount of leverage with those customers. In the UK, 2 facilities. Our northern-based site is in Burnley, where there are a cluster of manufacturers, Safran and Brookhouse and BAE Systems, of course. And in the south, down at Hamble, we've got a second manufacturing site, which largely supports Hamble Aerospace, which used to be GE. But we also support GKN out of the Burnley site as well. The opportunity in Europe is to grow into our customers there. GKN have got 2 sites in the Netherlands and 1 in Germany, in Munich. And Safran have 3 sites. One we work with at Composites, another one at Le Havre, and they've just opened quite a large facility down in Morocco, which we're under discussion with. In the States, our facility is in Alabama, close to GKN there, which is the contract that we announced at the end of last year, $20 million a year contract, which runs to the end of 2028 at the moment. But as you can see around there, there are quite a number of fairly significant manufacturers as well, and we hope to add additional volume to that Alabama site by winning business with some of those in the coming year. Equally, there are some other opportunities like Spirit there, located in the Midwest, which I think is probably one of the largest or the largest aerospace manufacturing location in the world. Those 2 sites, one in Kansas and one in Oklahoma. So I'll hand back to John.
This slide just gives you an idea of the sort of new business development onboarding process, just again to sort of tie that in with how we're explaining, reporting some of the growth. So this is typical what we've seen with the large contract win in North America. So there's we get involved with our customers at the front end, a lot of bid development, a lot of understanding their current costs, and actually writing the business case with them to outsource this part of their supply chain. Because this site needed a new site, we had an authority to proceed agreement signed, which underwrote about $3 million of site fit-out costs. We then established the site and the approvals to actually start doing the business locally in Alabama. The sort of contract was all finished and announced in the sort of end of 22. So really in 23 this year, the focus has been about the establishment of that facility and the ramp up under that contract. So with all the programs, so this particular customer, there's 5 key sub-programs. As with any aerospace program, there's a first article inspection process, and this is very regulated and very key. So that's where we establish that our data is the same as their data, both from a desktop level, but we also manufacture the first kits and verify those to show that the whole data flow from them to us has been successful for their benefit and on behalf of their customers. Once we've done that per program, then we can start the transfer and the ramp up and the sort of switch from their own internal supply to the velocity supply, and then we sort of repeat that through all the programs. So it's a very controlled and regulated process. And as Andrew said, the key thing there is it's very expensive to reverse. And again, as long as we're performing, which of course we do, and also build those very deep relationships with customers, then all our initial contracts roll on, which what we hope for, very long-term strategic relationships with our customers. And so just to summarise really, this is a new part of the industry. We are first to offer that service at the depth that we do and across the level of customers that we do. Significant growth in the market, and linked to that is our own growth and our profitability through 24. We've already made the investments with 3 very strategically placed and established production facilities. And because of the size of the market and our preparation for that, we have our own 5-year target for growth and profitability. And we're also building very sticky, high-quality relationships with some big, large, high-quality customers in a very long-term sort of structured industry. That's the sort of end of the main part of the presentation. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, have we got any questions, please? Peter's there, I think, is he? Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
I'm trying to get a better sense of the competitive environment you're in. So could you explain in a bit more detail your economic moat, and also, and my second question is, I think you mentioned you're expecting to be in profit by middle of this year. So I'd like to get a sense of why will it be the middle of this year? Is it that you can scale up quite aggressively, having already invested a lot in the processes and so on? Thank you.
Thanks. So I think the first part of your question, the competitive environment, I mean, a lot of our efforts are around working with customers to establish their current costs and define what the future costs could be, the future state, by working with us. So it's about that transition from being an in-house process, something that they've always done. It's a sort of part of their entire we do everything type process for such a new part of the supply chain, to a more established, we'll focus on our core business, they'll focus on their core business, and we actually all work together to deliver the growth that's required. In terms of the second part was around the sort of scaling up. Clearly, the US project is having a big impact in our scaling up and the sort of growth in turnover and profitability. Burnley site, there's a lot of central costs there which we can spread now, as that site looks after the central engineering, the central supply chain, central material ordering. So the business becomes a lot more sized rightly for its core costs that we needed to establish through COVID to maintain the sort of full capability that we have. And I think also pre-COVID there was a lot of pre-inflation, if you like. We've also, as our contracts renew, we get a lot of inflation escalation in there in terms of energy, labour, to match the sort of material escalation that we had in them. So existing contracts as well not only are growing as rates recover, but they're more mature in terms of the contractual relationships that we have. So all that combined, we have a lot of visibility and confidence in our current order book, but also future growth as well with the opportunities that you saw.
Okay.
Sorry,
There
is a
carry on.
point to make, isn't there?
I mean, just in terms of the sort of revenues, the contracts we've got, as we said there, we've got 30 million plus of contractual demand, which we're fulfilling now. So the FIA ramp-up process is underway for that main contract in the US. We've completed more than 50% of it already. The rest of it will go through that process during the first half of our financial year, which started beginning of November. That's where we expect, when that concludes, we will then be a profitable business during the second half of our financial year. But the big growth, obviously, we're looking at revenues getting on for doubling in the coming financial year through having those contracts already in place, and it's a delivery issue now.
And so to be clear, so the second half of next year, our financial year, which ends October, we should be significantly profitable because we will have that 30 million run rate per month. But also that means that the following year we should be at a higher revenue and more profit because we'll, instead of having half a year where we're really profitable, we'll have a full year. So, and then obviously if we have any more new business, that loads into more likely 2025 if it will start in 24. So that's the dynamics. You know, if you put 30 million into, so say the spreadsheet and say, what does this business make? It makes a decent profit. And that's where we're heading.
Excuse me. Thank you. Otherwise, everyone can't hear you, see. Take it to you.
Can you hear me now?
That's it.
Yeah.
What is the profit on the 30 million?
The guidance that has been out for the city for a while is sort of 1.7 to 2.5 million EBITDA. So it's in that range. That's the only guidance we've given so far. There will be an update on that when we announce our results for the 23rd of January next year.
So you won't know anything until January next year?
Well, we know, but
Well,
we haven't announced
won't.
to the city yet until we announce results.
We have given some long-term financial analysis, so we'd expect at least, even at a 10% EBITDA margin, because the materials are a flow-through, the return on capital is about 25%. So you've got to remember that this is a return on capital opportunity. It's the biggest single element in terms of investors because it's like our IP is locked up in all that tech and engineering knowledge. There is a capex spend, but it isn't that great because we bespoke the machinery ourselves. We build the plants ourselves. That plant was built by our guys in the UK. So that gives a massive return on capital opportunity.
Okay, take a question here, and we've got a question over there afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask you about your IP. Is it in processes or materials, your IP?
It's in processes and, it's our technology, it's our know-how, it's in all those. John, you can explain maybe how you lock that IP up and protect it.
Yeah, it's, what we've done is digitise the process, so it's in the process IP, but then it's the digitisation of that, which is built into our system, as Andy said, into our hardware. So we buy the cutting machines off the shelf, but it's our software that drives them. It's our software that drives the material nesting to drive the efficiency, to hunt the scenarios that actually utilise the material as effectively as possible and marries it up to the customer demand. You can see it's our technology that then breaks that back out and controls the traceability back out into the kits. So it's all the individual aspects that actually form that full system there for the composite supply chain.
Thank you. Who are your competitors in this?
Not necessarily competitors, but the customers continuing to do it in-house will be the main competitors. I think, there's always a few people who do contract cutting, but they'll cut like the customer cuts. There's no one actually looking this from a complete holistic service supply chain provision that actually drives, serious cost reductions in materials.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman over there, please.
Small player dealing with much bigger organisations. Can I ask what your receivables looks like? Do you get paid on time?
We do. Most of the time we get paid on time. I mean, clearly there are challenges working with some of these large organisations to make sure the nuts and bolts are done so you can get paid on time. And but we, for example, in our accounts at the moment we're showing no outstanding debt over 90 days. I think our average debtor days are about 68, 70, something like that. We do have contracts with longer debtor days obviously built into them, but then we have the process to sort of follow that through and make sure all the loose ends are tied up so the customers pay us.
And we're able to sell and discount those receivables because they're all blue chip customers as well. And in fact, in the States, all the big customers provide supply chain finance which we build into the pricing so we can get paid in 5 days off GKN.
Any other questions, please? This gentleman here, thanks.
If investing in smaller companies, I take some comfort in thinking that my interests and as of the directors are in alignment. I've been looking at your website briefly, and from your annual report of 2022, there were only 2 directors out of 7 who were holding shares at that point in time. Has that changed since? My thought is that if the purpose of being at this meeting to an extent is to encourage those here to buy shares, make money, clearly, hopefully, it just begs the question why a number of your colleagues appear not to have done as yet.
That's okay. Right. So the 2 people that actually own physical shares are me and John, I think who you're saying. What that misses is that we have a share option plan, and people have the right to sacrifice up to 20% of their base salary, so this is not a bonus, for an equity instrument, which is a nominal share option, which can be exercised whenever they want. But from a tax perspective, it's better they just hold them as options. So they do have a significant interest, and people have built that interest through sacrificing, i.e. not taking their full salary, but over about 4 years now. And so we do have people who have, John, about 500,000, 600,000.
Plus, yeah.
Yeah. It's just the way that we've done that from it's a tax position and everything else. But so it doesn't show in the accounts they own the shares, but they do have the rights over the shares. Is that and that is all the exec management and all the board, apart from Andrew, you haven't got any, but everyone else, and right here, aren't I, John?
Yep.
Everyone else in the senior management team, and certainly all the other directors, have an equity interest which they have bought out of their own salaries. It's not something that's been given as an extra.
Thank you for that.
Excuse me. Can you wait for the microphone, please? Everybody else can pick it up, yeah? Yes. Thank you.
Coming back, what can we ask what the option price is?
Have you finished?
I've got another question.
Yeah, you have 1 second, sir. Let the gentleman finish, and then I'll bring you in, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
I see that the company was launched relatively recently. Can you just give us a little bit of history of how the company came about before you floated? How long you've been operating as an organisation altogether?
Yeah, I mean, we formed the company back in late 2007. There was 3 of us that formed it initially from no outside investment. So we built it, bootstrapped it from the ground up. Won the first few contracts, invested that back into more contracts to the point where we IPO'd back in 2017, and then we're making good progress before COVID came, and then sort of paused things for sort of 3 years, and now the rates are recovering again post-COVID, and the production rates obviously increasing, and the customer demand is back as aircraft production rates recover.
You'd be right, John, to say back in, I think about 2019, the business got to 24 million revenue then, which is just a UK business with a little bit of European. And then COVID hit, and obviously, as you know, the aerospace industry got decimated by that. So it's been a case of keeping the business afloat and then rebuilding again. When I was supporting the business at that point, we'd already set up the US company and shipped a couple of cutting machines out, and we were expecting to get a contract and build the factory. But 3 years later, that's all happened, which is good, and now the journey is as we've been presenting.
Okay, sir.
Can you tell us what the option price is?
Yeah, I mean, all normal options are issued at market price, so whatever that is, the current price, about 40p.
Do you have an option to buy shares? You have a fixed price. You can buy those shares, or you can pass on the option.
You can take up the option if you obviously you're in the money at 40p. Salary sacrifice options are issued at nominal because clearly people are giving up salary in place of that. So we have a mixture of nominal and then performance options are at market price.
Yeah, but explain the salary sacrifice ones. So they're a nominal value to the share price. But we have a special options pricing model that works out, based on the current share price, what they're sacrificing. So if they say it's £1,000 a month, and then it will work out and say, well, that is worth this amount of options. So there's no gain or loss in that from the company, in the sense that they're not getting a better deal than anyone else. They're just getting an option rather than a share. But it is calculated using an option pricing model, so that the idea is as near as you can get to a fair value for what they're getting.
So there's no specific share option price?
No, there is. For the nominal ones, it'll be like a quarter of a p or something, or that's called a nominal one. Do you not understand?
Yeah, I understand options and shares. I have had them myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I say, you're given a price that you can purchase those shares at, say,
Yeah.
5 years' time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what we said. Yeah.
And that price is...
We've just said if it's salary sacrifice ones, to minimise the amount of shares that are used, they're effectively sacrificing hard cash for shares worth the same amount. They happen to be given them in the form of an option.
No specific price.
It is. It has a quarter of a p. It's still a nominal price.
Thank you very much for the questions.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, John. Thank you, Andrew.